Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dogs Down South. This is our weekly podcast show talking all things Georgia football. It is officially today the off season. No Pro Bowl or Pro College Football Bowl, or it's finally, I guess for Georgia fans, it's finally over. We don't have to watch any other team play in a bowl game or a championship game. Last night, Ohio State took care of business. They tried to give it away. They took care of business and beat Notre Dame, and Ohio State is the 2025 college football national champions with their $25 million roster. And so we won't talk a little bit about it, but tonight's show, we are going to break down the way too early spring depth chart for Georgia. We'll talk all things depth chart, a little bit of portal, and some questions here or there. We're grabbing for content in the off season, but spring's right around the corner. Let me bring on my man, Richman. How are you, Richman, in snowy Georgia tonight?
Hey, my first question out of left field. I'm going to throw some sauce out there.
Dude, left field. How's the snow? Question from left field. Go ahead.
If Ryan Day doesn't beat Michigan next year, is he still on the hot seat?
Oh, man. Oh, dude, that's a burner. Right,
win a national championship, can't beat Michigan. You think they're going to run him out of town?
That's a burner right out of the gate, man. To be continued. I don't know this whole Ryan Day thing, man. So much happened last night, man, with Kirk Herbstreit crying on set and, Ohio State winning it with their $25 million roster. Everybody says Georgia has a $20 million roster, but I haven't seen the specs, as they call it. So I don't know, man. Quick reaction. Like, what did you think about the national championship? Like, what's your take?
Man, I think I was impressed with Notre Dame just being gritty, and fighting, trying to. I mean, they obviously were outclassed with talent, but they were just some gritty, tough football players that gave it everything they had. I mean, compliments to Ohio State, but Ohio State looked like to me they won purely on talent.
Right.
But, I mean, that's what we all want, right? We want to have the best talent and win. So congratulations to them. Yeah. But I was really impressed with Notre Dame and just the grit of that team. I like the coach. I love that quarterback. I love he's just a tough kid.
It was closer than, they covered, but they only covered by the field goal that was kicked at the end, when Notre Dame. I thought one of the worst calls of the game there at the end. The field goal, I don't know if you take that field goal. If I had to make that decision 10 times, 9 out of 10, I would have gone for it. You went for it on every other time,
Right.
So you would have gotten it to, I'm not mathing it, but you'd have got it to 13, 14. I get it. But, the field goal gets you, 16. So it doesn't really matter. I think you go for it there, but the play of the game, in my opinion, was when Ryan Day said it, and why this is not typical Marcus Freeman, because I felt like he was really on top of the schemes and what he did in the playoffs. They did a phenomenal job, him and his staff. And kudos to Notre Dame, but they put, everybody was in the box. They had one high safety and they played man, and Day said it. If Jeremiah Smith's going to get man, on third down, I'm going to go there. And everybody knew there was a pass that I just don't think they were going to break a 9-yard runoff,
Right.
Not with as many was in the box. And I was a little caught off guard with that. The fact that he put it on the spot though, and he caught it, like, you got to go and make an athletic play. So it's a 50-50 ball. But it was from jump. The receiver, the corner gave him 10 yards. The corner gave him the first down before they said hut. So that was a questionable call, but still, even if Notre Dame gets the ball back there, they got to go down, score, which were hard to come by for Notre Dame. They had to score again. So they're trying to get 16 points in 6 minutes, and they were barely able to muster up 15 in, a little over 40 minutes. So it was going to be hard either way, but I agree with you. A lot of grit. The field goal, they covered the spread. The field goal, a lot of people thought me and you were on our TikTok show, and we were like, every Ohio State fan was saying 21 points. No, 28 points. This was a blowout. I mean, we even said it before. Halftime, I thought it would come down to a field goal. It came down to a touchdown. But I do think when you look at what Notre Dame did, the body of work, they kind of had some Georgia-esque looks. It was like, who is this? And what are they doing? It's like the drive that, I mean, when they went down and had the longest drive in college football playoff history, it took the longest time. I was like, man, okay, this is
8-minute drive.
Yeah, sludge it around, right? Next thing you know, man, the possession Ohio State had was like, it was almost like they were playing 11-0. They were running whatever play they wanted. And I was like, oh, man, this doesn't bode well. But, I mean, kudos to Ohio State. I don't be a sore loser, but, man, Paul Feinbaum said it today. If you want to catch it, go. He said, Ryan Day paid $25 million to win a national championship. You want me to be excited about it? So, in Paul Feinbaum-esque fashion.
That's hilarious.
That brings the season to an end and crowns Ohio State national champions for the first time since 2014. So, about 10 years or so ago to the day. And a lot of those guys, including Ryan Day, are making big statements that they're here to stay. Now, your question. You say if he loses to Michigan again, is he out? Me personally? No. He will be disgruntled. They will be disgruntled again, but he will be able to look at them and go, and maybe the fans will want him out, but he'll be able to look at the administration and go, I might not beat Michigan, and I get it, but I mean, yeah, I'm winning a lot. I'm getting you a lot of money in these bowl games. And I mean, you know what all those bowl game payouts are? I mean, home game that they don't usually get, ticket sales, right? So they get ticket sales concessions for another game they usually don't get. Let's see, they got big time revenue from the Cotton Bowl. They got big time revenue from the national championship bowl game. I don't know what you would ask for, but I will tell you this: if he loses to Michigan and does not go far in the playoffs next year, I think his season's on the hot seat. I just think there's some disgruntledness. You heard them say, I keep hearing the story that wasn't going to be able to be told unless they won. So I'm curious to see what this story is. If this is a story or, I see Herb Street in the booth, he's tearing up and I'm just like, come on, man. Like what? Like, he's like, everybody was against it. No, they weren't. I wasn't against Ohio State. I don't remember being against Ohio State. Do you?
I don't think so. I mean,
I'm a Georgia fan. I mean, you're a Georgia fan, but it's like
I said Ohio State's going to win, although I'm pulling for Notre Dame.
Right.
I think anybody that's serious football fan and looking at this knew that Ohio State was, seemed to have the talent level in their favor, and also they were peaking. They were just getting better and better. So, that's kind of what you look at. These national championship teams tend to peak towards the end of the season and get better and better game by game. So,
yeah, I agree. Well, it's in the books. We are officially in the off season. I've started grasping at some podcasts again and listening to some content people have here or there. So I remember this time last year we were talking about, we were talking a lot about what was going to be, gearing towards the off season. And, last year the college football, championship was done by the 13th last year. So we were a week and a half into the off season. And this is, college football is becoming a year-round sport. I mean, we're less than a month away or so from some of these first teams, taking the field for spring practice. Some of the first teams are going as early as February 29th. Woo. So that's crazy, real crazy. But I thought it would be cool to talk a little bit about a way too early depth chart. I think what we can get from this is a couple of things. We can look at what we think the depth will look like. And I only went 1 and 2 deep because we can go really deep in the roster. But I also have down here, what are some standout players that are maybe not on this 1 or 2 man deep roster that we see either freshman wise or somebody coming in that can make an impact. We'll talk a little bit about, what we think. Big 2 questions of the night is what what corner does the offense have to turn this year, and what corner does the defense have to turn this year to be a team that, when you look at them on paper, you know, we're going to be young again. We're going to be very well represented as far as talent. But we will be young again.
This team's. I mean, this is a rebuilding year. We're rebuilding our offensive line. We're rebuilding. Right. I mean, we don't have a quarterback.
Right.
We got a sophomore running back one, and then we don't know what we have. I mean, Robinson and Robinson have been the Johnson and Johnson Band-Aid brigade for how long?
Yeah, long time, man. That feels like forever.
Cash Jones, we know we can rely on him. He's tough. He's got great hands. He's great catching the ball.
Right.
But you know, he's not necessarily my favorite for being number 2 and carrying the ball in rotation. So, you know, in the offensive line thing, whew.
Yeah, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at
kids coming. It's just we don't know who's going to play.
Yeah. The thing is the interesting point of tonight is we're going to look at a roster that in some parts are young, some parts are very talented, but this is already a team that is garnering. I don't know if you notice this, but I listen to a couple of people that their opinions I find are very non-biased. They look at the entire SEC, and this is a team that is still being looked at as a number 1, number 2 team in the nation. Now, I don't think we'll start out in that top 1 or 2 slot. I think we'll probably start out somewhere top 5, top 6. But this is still this team is recruited to continue to have depth, recruited to still be very talented. So there's no drop off as far as talent, but there is a drop off as far as obviously, game ready speed. However, I will tell you that we had a lot of game ready guys this year, and maybe that created some lackadaisicalness on this team. You know, a lot of been there, done that, got the ring, know what it feels like. There's a lot of things that I like about what's coming up this year. You look at the depth and there's some hunger. There's got to be, right? I think we can get back to a style of, hey, every day you're not guaranteed a spot on that line. You're not guaranteed a spot in that quarterback rotation, right?
I think that would be great for the offensive line. I think we're going to see a lot of different players the first couple of games.
Yes. Yeah. And we got time to do that this year.
But I mean, having the competition there, hopefully the talent will bubble to the top. And and hopefully, we got a ton of linemen. Hopefully, we're going to have a first string and second string that can deploy that when we roll the seconds and they're not, we're not taking a step back.
Exactly. Well, let's dive in, man. So obviously some parts we'll go a little bit more in depth on because we feel good about them, but others it's like, all right, let's really talk through this because we don't really know a whole lot. But I think we can start with quarterback. I think, you look at Gunner. I think Gunner is coming back from what I'm hearing. I don't see us out there shopping the portal hard. I don't hear rumors out there. I mean, does that mean in spring something can't come about? It's not Kirby-like to that late in the game for culture purposes, bring in a quarterback that will start that quick. So I think we can assume that we're looking at Gunner Stockton, barring any health concerns, will be Georgia's quarterback next year. He will be the starting quarterback next year to start the year. But I'm hearing some things about Ryan Puglisi, and the things I'm hearing is the good thing about all these guys with this 2 and 3 deep, Ryan Montgomery, I'm hearing a lot about, I think Hezekiah Millender, another athletic guy from the Athens area that's coming in. The biggest thing I'm hearing from all these quarterbacks is these are guys who want to be at Georgia. They're people who are culturally, they feel at home at Georgia. They want to be a part of, they want to grow, develop. And I think that's what Georgia's looking for. And the one thing I haven't seen before Carson Beck is people that are ready to jump in the portal because of playing time or lack of maybe trust, trust that something's going to be done. And we'll talk about it. We don't want to beat it up too much, but I do think that offensively some things have to change in some areas. But What do you think about Gunner? What do you think about Ryan Puglisi? The big thing I hear is very talented arm, NFL type arm, and a lot of people are saying that he might get challenged a little bit this year for Gunner. Now, I don't know, but
I think that's good. I mean, needs to be challenged. We need him to make the right calls. We need him to whoever's on the field needs to be making the right calls and putting us in the right position and reading those defenses. So, the more competition, the more time reading film, honing that skill, the better in the long run.
I'm gonna ask a controversial question. You threw your one zinger and got me really quick, but the year that Jake Fromm came in and was being pushed, by names, that were on the list, and then you had the years of JT Daniels and Stetson, and could that be last year? I mean, it was just so this is Beck's team, right? That feel of Carson Beck, coming back, Heisman, trophy, type talk. And now you see what the result was. And I mean, the reason that I'm sidebarring a little bit on as far as like rebuilding is because we didn't really have this incredibly crazy dominant year this year. It was a very challenging year with a lot of depth on the line as far as talent plus age. Same way in our running back room, same way in our quarterback room, and same way in our linebackers, and defensive line. Like, there were all areas where there was a lot of, I would say, maturity, where you don't look at some of those let-ups we have. But to stay on topic, like, do you think this year that this is one of Kirby's biggest things he wants to bring back to Georgia is when you step on the field, I'm not trying to make you feel like every day you walk on the field you can lose your job, but I am trying to make you understand that you got to compete. And the best players are going to play regardless of if your NIL deal is bigger than whose. I mean, it's controlling college football in some ways where you can't even. I mean, who's to say that Kirby can't play one player over the other because their NIL deal? I mean, it happened with Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. So what do you think about that this year? Do you think this is a year of the return of the Kirby that doesn't care who you are, what your name is, and what your NIL deal is? If you practice and you win the job at practice, you're going to see playing time.
I think, well, that's part of Kirby's culture, but I think, I don't know, but this is something that I kind of perceive as, I know that the championship teams, Kirby used to talk about how those guys would police themselves. They held each other to high standards, and we didn't really have to get involved in the discipline because the team held each other accountable at a high level. They held practices and meetings outside of assigned meetings for the team. And I think that is a culture that he would like to see. And I think maybe he's got the right guys now that can do that. Maybe. Because, we can beat Beck to death, but to some degree, I don't think Beck, that wasn't his thing. He wasn't into all that stuff.
Right.
He had his personal goals. We heard all about that, but we didn't hear anything about him and the team, so to speak. And so I think. Obviously, Kirby's always going to have the competition, but I think that competition is going to be a lot more acute, especially in the positions, quarterback for sure. It's obviously going to be with the line of scrimmage, but I think you're going to see that on the defense too.
Yeah,
I mean, I think this is going to be opened up competitively. But now here's another thing that I don't know what we'll see, but I'm hoping that some of these freshmen that are coming on are going to be allowed to play if they can contribute.
Yeah,
we don't know, man. We hear we hear a lot of stuff, And what's frustrating is you think, oh, you got a talent sitting on the bench like Herschel Walker, but you won't let him play because he muffed a block in practice.
Right. Yeah.
And,
That's a really good statement, because I've been thinking the same thing. I've looked at the Ohio States, you look at what they spent on their roster, right? And people say it all the time. They're like, Georgia spends money, and Georgia's NIL is up there, but it's like, we have to be spending a lot of money on incoming freshmen, maybe guys that are already there that, when you hear the Nitro Tuggle stories, I'm sure that maybe Ellis Robinson got a bump this year, because it's like, how do you keep Ellis in the folds when he's looking at what he saw last year and he's going, do I have a spot?
Yep.
I have talent I can't beat. Maybe he's not beating Daniel Harris out in practice, or Dalen Everett. But so I know that happens. But I think what we see is we see the Ole Misses and the Mississippi States. We see some of these teams spending a lot of money on the forefront because they don't recruit well and they don't retain well, because the first time somebody has a breakout year, they move. I mean, look at Van Buren from Mississippi State. He left. He was going to be the quarterback of the future, but Blake Shapen obviously is returning, so forth, so on. So, I think, are we spending our money on these freshmen coming in, the Talon Taylors, the C.J. Wileys, the Elias Williams, the Isaiah Gibsons, the so on and so forth, these 5-star guys, are we spending the money on them? And if we are, Elijah Griffith, they gotta, the money's got to meet the road. They gotta get on the field. So how do you balance that? You gotta take some chances.
I just wonder if we're watching this the system change. The system's being tested, and the test is, Kirby's philosophy is to bring on this talent that wants to be here and develop them. And then you got a lot of programs out there that are just going for the talent in the portal. And I think we don't know I think the jury's out on this. We don't really know. I mean, we saw what Ohio State did this year, but Ohio State also has always recruited well and developed talent as well. So, but I'm just wondering, are we going to see random teams go out and buy a team and win championships randomly? Or is it going to be the Michigan, the Ohio State, the Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, or Alabama gets back, whatever?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the same teams, or is it just going to be this randomness? I don't think we know. I think that remains to be seen. I know from some of the blogs that I read that the fan bases across the country are just moaning for some patriotism to their program.
That's done. That's over with. That's over with. I mean, unfortunately, it's over with. I would tell you this, though. I look at what was the Ryan Williams experiment at Alabama, because my thing is this. Here's what I just want to know. If Ryan Williams came to Georgia this past year,
would he have played?
That's
$1 million question that I'd like to know myself.
Because
typically Kirby doesn't let them play if they can't block, and typically your freshmen aren't very good blockers.
Yes. You take Ryan Williams, and he was the difference maker. They didn't have a go-to receiver this year for Alabama, which is probably the reason why they struggled. If you call it him, it's hard to make him a person who can adapt to the game, but also go, by the way, we're looking your way. We're looking your way every time. First read, Milroe's looking for you. That's tough, man.
Yeah,
it's very tough. Moving along, I think we pretty much know what that looks like. Obviously, 4 deep. We talked about Ryan Montgomery, who I heard we got a steal from, and then Hezekiah Millender. Who knows with Hezekiah Millender? I've heard that they went and grabbed him up out of. They flipped him from heading out of state and wanted him bad. I think because of maybe there's some athleticism to be tapped in. But here's our first. I mean, running back. I guess we can talk a little bit. This is kind of a, and we don't want to spend. Man, we could spend all night on it. We'll see where we get. But running back's another place we can spend some time on, because I look at the people like Nate Frazier, right? Do you think Nate Frazier had a better year than Trevor Etienne this year?
Yeah.
A lot of people said Trevor Etienne was there
only
Texas
because
game, and
Etienne got hurt, and that gave him a chance to really show his stuff. Really,
right.
I don't think he would have. I think he would have gotten a lot less carries and a lot less showcased if Etienne hadn't got hurt.
Yeah. So this year, I mean, I think you look at, I don't know about you, see if you agree or disagree. I mean, I'm thinking just 1-2 deep. I mean, if Branson and Rod, the Robinson duo, and Cash, I mean, Cash is going to be in there. They love Cash on third down, maybe some second down plays. But if they're not there as one, as like, and you know how Kirby does, it's not 1, 2, or 3 at running back. It's usually 1 or 1 or 1. But if they're not in that top 3, like,
yeah,
I don't know if they stay after spring.
I mean, if they can't play, their career's over.
Right. I don't know, man. I haven't heard anything after the national championship. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I haven't heard anything after the playoff game about Rod and this lingering turf toe thing. Branson, I heard that he was getting back to snuff towards the end of the year. Probably could have went if we needed him, but didn't go. But Branson lost another step this year. And then I'm hoping that he, if he's lost another step, the poor guy, he starts to remind you like, I remember the guys, what was Keith Marshall? Reminds me of Keith Marshall, man. Remember Keith Marshall?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the guy was at Georgia for like 7 years, and it's like, I don't know. There's some people, obviously Dwight Phillips. We brought in a talented 4-star Bo Walker. Obviously we lose ETN, and we keep all of our depth at running back, but we don't know what our depth is, because we don't know what Rod Robinson can do. We have not seen him physically. I mean, we saw him carry the ball twice, and then Branson. I mean, he was limited because of ETN and Frazier, but when he did run it, it almost looked like it was like, man, he took a step back as far as just like, pure raw strength that you thought you were going to get from him. That Chubb, everybody attributed him to kind of that Nick Chubb, body style and run style. But I don't know, man. I mean, needless to say, I think Cash is sitting there behind Nate because he's an option, but I think the answer on this is, who is number 2? Who's the or guy? Who's the lightning? Who's the thunder guy? I could see one of these guys, because I think they look at Nate as the Sony Michel type running back we used to have, and we're looking for that. Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley type, and Branson or Rod could be that, but we just haven't seen them healthy.
Somebody's got to get healthy. I mean, not only get healthy, but then they got to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you don't practice, you don't play, and if you don't play,
well, I mean, when I say you got to play, when you get in the game and get the ball, you got to do something with it. You can't just run into somebody and fall down.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't remember a couple of years ago, we had a running back. I never saw him break a tackle. It was like first contact, he went down every time, and I was like, why is he even in the game?
Yeah. So my question mark on that 1-2 deep is, who is, like, I think my big question mark for the running backs in the spring is like, what do they look like? Can we see them run? G-Day, like, I'd love to see them run, cut, and go, what are we going to be? I'm probably more excited to look at G-Day this year than I've ever been, because in the last 2 or 3 years, yes, there's a quarterback that I think it will be Gunner, but this year it's going to be so much competition to see not only what we think will be starting, but like, what are the layers of depth, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, because there's going to be so much competition at offensive line, so much competition at the wide receivers. There'll be competition at the running back at the second level and third.
Right.
It's going to be actually the competition on offense is going to be fascinating. Defense.
Let's look at the defense yet. We'll go to defense in a little bit. But what do you think? I mean, this has been. We'll go wide receiver last because I have so much action in the portal. But this is a group that you've been talking about a lot, and you've been leaning into a lot, and it's kind of the area that you're always the most comfortable with. You enlighten me every day about. But let's talk about number one, the offensive line, because this is the Achilles heel. Because it doesn't matter what we line up at receiver, because what we found out in the Sugar Bowl was if Gunner can't stay on his feet, it doesn't matter if we got Zachariah Branch or Colby Young coming back. It doesn't matter. And so, obviously we've been watching Austin Brooks, and one of his main comments are, I think the only three guys that are circled players that go, these are guys that we can, and it's still, I mean, you said rebuilding year, but look at the three guys. I thought Drew Bobo, I'll start at center. I thought Drew Bobo, albeit he needs to put a little weight on. I thought Drew Bobo, when he got his number called, did a pretty good job. What do you think?
Yeah, I was very impressed with Drew. I was very impressed with Monroe Freeling. I mean, he obviously got outclassed against Notre Dame, but other than that, since he came in, he had been solid. So I'm looking at Monroe Freeling probably at left tackle. Micah Morris probably left guard, and Drew Bobo's at center. So the right side is going to be up for grabs. And that's going to be interesting because Ernest Green had a lot of practice. I mean, a lot of game time.
Yeah.
But
who do you like on that right side? I mean, we got people. I mean, I've got some names we'll throw out at tackle. I agree with Monroe Freeling. We got to figure out what Ernest Green is going to. What can he do? Is he hurt? Does he need surgery? Is he good? I've heard Josh Jackson is a mammoth. Jackson is a mammoth kid.
Ernest Green, if I'm not mistaken, last year played really well, and this year he had this shoulder problem that's hampered him all year. So maybe he'll get scoped and get that fixed if that's necessary. But I mean, he was a solid player. But this, next, the one that we want to see what's going to happen is that Jaw Jackson.
I've heard good things about Jaw Jackson. I heard this is a kid that looks the part. A lot of people kind of are kind of saying, "Hey, this guy looks like Roderick Coley." I'm hearing a lot of those comments. I'm hearing good things about Jaw Jackson, but I'm also hearing some good things about Bo Hughley. And the one thing I am hearing about Hughley is they'd like for him to put on some weight over the offseason. They would really like him to put on about 10 pounds, 15 pounds.
But maybe we need a pulling guard that can move.
Right.
Not another battleship.
Right. I don't know. I mean, does that mean does Ernest maybe go to guard? I'm hearing some good things about Daniel Calhoun. I heard he's kind of next man up as far as guard is concerned. A name I'm hearing that, even Austin Brooks said he really liked was Jamal Merriweather. But once again, another guy that needs to maybe just gain a little weight as far as that and strength, right? Because this is the SEC. You got to be able to play in the SEC. And you named it. A lot of talent, man. Like it isn't from lack of recruiting. I don't think it's from lack of good recruiting on the line. But, I mean, my thing is like we've seen all this NFL-type talent go through Georgia the past 5 years on offensive line, and it's like, was it talent? And the coaching just never really had to become a microscopic point because there was so much good talent, and it was that the talent dropped off a little bit this year, and coaching started. I guess you could say we were trying to manhandle people.
I think it's coaching and footwork, because if you listen to Austin played offensive line, but your footwork, your positioning, and your upper body, using your arms, where you strike, all that stuff's almost like a dance, man. I mean, it's very technical, very, very technical. And if you listen to some of the offense, you listen to Tate Ratledge, you listen to Monroe Freeling said after the Notre Dame game, he's like, our footwork was not good. We were out of position. So I'm throwing that at coaching. I think a lot of these kids that we've got right now are NFL caliber linemen that have a bright future ahead of them. But you gotta have the right teacher.
Yeah.
To get these guys, you just gotta get these fine-tuned techniques down.
Right.
And I don't know how they do that. I don't know how these coaches do that, but I'm not real impressed with the last 2 years. I mean, our running game's been terrible the last 2 years.
100%. Yeah.
And if Kirby don't go find an offensive line coach that can teach these guys how to block for the run, you can kiss Georgia football goodbye.
Yeah.
We're going into the mediocre. We're going into the mediocre world of football.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting ready to. I mean, we are right around the corner from looking at, other teams. I mean, we try to focus a lot more on the SEC, in the off season just to make it fun. But like we're looking at, I think the SEC gets extremely more competitive next year from the fact that you enter in some of these teams on top of who already was competitive. You enter in some people that really didn't finish strong, but they finished strong in terms of their regular season. I think South Carolina creates a little bit more of a talk this year with Lenore Sellers and how they did and finished up the year. I think Missouri.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the SEC has gotten too finesse, too soft, and too fast, and the Big Ten has complemented this power football with the good, fast skill position players, but they're just tougher? And not only that, but are they hungry? Are they sick of hearing about the SEC? And is the Big Ten hungry? Are they coming after us? Because if that's the case, I mean, I don't know that I see an SEC team this year that's hungry. I saw a lot of teams that seemed like they were expecting to win because they were ranked high in the SEC, and they all floundered.
Yeah, it's a viable question. I think the Big Ten had a good year.
They had a good year last year.
They did, but I also think last year they had a lot less competition. You brought Oregon over this year. You brought USC, even though USC wasn't competitive, but you brought a style of football. They had East and West. I don't know how they did it. Was it East and West, North and South, whatever? Or did they? Did they have sides of? I can't remember, but
I don't know if they. Yeah, I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. What I think. I think there's too many coaches in the SEC right now who are offensive minded. They're offensive minded. I mean, look at when you look out there. You look at the Lane Kiffins. You look at the Josh Heupels. You look at the Billy Napiers. You look at the Eli Drinkwitz. Even though Drinkwitz is a defensive guy, his defense has at first when he got there was his crutch, but now you can see him really going out there, and he had some talent on defense this year, but did not play complementary football with the studs they had on offense. That's just one of them. Auburn, man. I mean, you got Hugh Freeze, offensive-minded coach. Your defense was terrible this year. Mississippi State, terrible defense. Kentucky, terrible defense. Alabama, not the Alabama defense of old. Not even the Alabama offense of old.
Right.
Georgia's defense this year was not, I mean, it was a good year, but it wasn't a typical great defense that Georgia posts. I just think that there's not a lot of, you got to understand that the Big Ten still understands offense is important, but we can put up enough points, but they still play great defense. Penn State played great defense this year. Oregon played great defense this year with Dan Lanning. You want to include Notre Dame in that, even though they're not in the Big Ten. I think they should just go ahead and join it. But you include them in the Big Ten mindset. And then, I mean, Ohio State was phenomenal. They had 9 returning starters on defense. You might as well say 10 because Caleb Downs was a starter at Alabama. So defense, I think the SEC is going away from defense. You won't. I mean, a lot of offensive-minded coaches.
Yeah, and it's
I mean, there's some I
finesse.
didn't even
It's
name.
finesse. It's not even power.
I mean, Texas, Sarkisian, offensive-minded coach. Texas A&M, finally. I mean, Kirby and A&M, they're defensive-minded guys. I mean, I think
A&M, didn't Elko? I thought Elko was a defensive guy.
yes, that's what I'm saying. A&M, Elko, Kirby.
What is Ryan Day's
At Georgia?
background?
Ryan Day coached offense for Urban Meyer.
Okay,
so he was an offensive coordinator. But yeah, so this line will be. There's so much talent on this line. This is an opportunity to really. I don't know what's going on right now. I haven't heard much news for lack of time tonight. I haven't heard much news about what's going on with Kirby and if they were able to have a funeral for his father. What's been going on with him?
Isn't there a rumor that there's going to be some coaching mix up?
There is. Yeah.
I hope it's the offensive line. I mean,
I just haven't seen it. I would think that now would be the time, but knowing Kirby, he is a guy that I've heard that he's very much a stickler for process in the offseason because he asks so much of the coaches from time that fall practice starts till time of end of year. He asks for total buy-in and total, like, the gaps are, I get it, but this is why I pay you the big bucks type thing. So, but I think he's the same way once the ball drops and it's 0-0 and Georgia's done with their season. I think he makes them just tap out. I think he's like, look, go home, put the pen down, put the phone down. I know we got some things we have to do, but so I think he just got away. I think they got away from it for a little while, and I think they need to. They need to have some mirror moments where they go and come back, and I think those coaches can sit on it a little bit and figure out what they thought happened, and maybe Kirby's going to meet. I would think he would meet with each coach one-on-one. It definitely is position.
I wonder if they think we were only a few plays away from winning a national championship, and there's nothing wrong.
I don't think. I think they think we were a few plays away from winning a national championship, and that means there's so much wrong, right? Because that's
kind of where you and I are at, especially with the offense. Oh my God!
I mean, if we're a few plays away from a national championship with a team that I don't feel like was at its peak on the offensive line, nor running the football this year, nor offensive, game plan with a quarterback that was, I don't know. We've described it many, many times, and a defense that had some really great individual players, but probably played at a level this year that was not up to snuff of the defenses of the past. Still a good defense, but we've had some incredible.
We've said over and over in this thing, this defense requires a freaking stud in the middle.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and we've had good tackles, but I mean, you think Stackhouse is going to go and get drafted, or do you think he's going to get a contract after the draft for a scout team?
I don't think. I think Stackhouse will be a 6th, 7th round guy who provides some depth, and he might make the team, and he might not, unfortunately. But I will tell you this: that I do think and we'll talk about it. We got some time, but wide receivers and defensive line, to me, are the most talked about needs of. We secured the needs at wide receiver, but I think there's some portal work to be done on defensive line. We can talk about where, but wide receiver, obviously there were things we needed to accomplish. Just to wrap up on the offensive line part, I do think that it's going to look something like what you talked about. Monroe Freeling, I think, is locked in at left tackle. I think Micah Morris is your left guard. Not only come spring, but come first game of the year, barring injury. I think Drew Bobo is going to be your center this year. I think he's on probably a weight program right now. I think when it comes to here's the curveball I think you'll see. I think they will really challenge Ernest Green to figure out where he was in 2022 to go, are you a right guard or are you a right tackle this year? I think personally, I think he needs to be the right tackle because I think that position calls for maturity. And I think they put a big boy, Calhoun or Jaw Jackson. I don't know who you see at that right guard, or Bo Hughley. We'll see. Those are all tackles. Daniel Calhoun is definitely a possibility, so we'll see. But wide receiver, we needed to go out and get playmakers, and we did. So now the biggest thing is Gunner and Ryan Puglisi just throwing with these guys and starting to create some culture. A guy like Gunner who's going to go and throw with these guys instead of get on the phone or making TikTok videos with their, girlfriend 600 miles away might be the difference maker. And if we see these guys, do we see the return of Dylan Bell, who I think will be wide receiver 1, not because of his play last year, but because of the trust in Kirby and the trust in who he is and can be. After that, I really couldn't tell you who's 2, 3, 4. I think this is a wide open race for who's going to lock some of these positions down. I do think Zachariah Branch is a lock for one of those positions. I think you see him in the slot. I think he is our go-to slot guy this year, is Zachariah Branch. We didn't pay him what we paid him to come in for 1 year and ride the bench. So Zachariah Branch, it will be in there immediately. Now the questions come in. We went and we got Nitro Tuggle back. We wanted him badly. He hit the portal, came out quickly. What do we see in Nitro Tuggle? And then where do we see, what's the curveball? Do we get Colby Young back? Colby Young and Noah Thomas is going to be 2 names that you go, what if these 2 guys hit the field at the same time? These guys are both 6'6". We saw the playmaking Colby could provide. We've seen the playmaking that Noah can provide. What happens with these 2 guys on the field at the same time? And then you haven't even begun to tap into Taylor, who is being talked about as they call it, as advertised. CJ Wiley, a Milton kid, as advertised. And then London Humphreys. And then I'm even hearing Elias Williams. Do they line him up a little bit in some wide receiver stuff? What do you think, Richman, about this room coming into spring? On paper, this could be the most talented wide receiver room we've ever had at the University of Georgia.
Well, let me be skeptical. Okay. On paper, they look phenomenal, but can the son of a bitches catch?
Yeah,
that's the only thing I'm worried about. Good God. Nitro Tuggle obviously impressed somebody because they turned him around.
Yeah.
And that tells me that they enticed him, incentivized him to come back. Dylan Bell might be number 1, but I think that's up for grabs. I think if somebody steps up and says, hey, I can catch the ball and be reliable and get some separation, that wide receiver number 1 is up for grabs.
Yeah.
Because
I really don't know what this room will look like.
Yeah, we desperately need a receiver that can get some separation and win some, 50-50 contested balls.
Yeah. I really don't know what this room is going to look like. I don't. We know what's going to be in it, but I don't know what you're going to see.
Competition for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Any of these guys. I think this room will be wide open, and I think what you're going to see is if I'm James Coley, he had his year, I think, of receivers when he could go, these aren't my wide receivers. He went out and got some of the best talent recruiting wise that we've seen in that room. Taylor. Once again, are we going to allow Taylor to be a Ryan Williams? We have to, right? If we're paying these guys the money we're paying them, where in the hell is our NIL money going if they're not?
Here's the other thing, Ted. If they're that good, they're going to hit the portal.
Right.
So you got to play them. And if you don't play them and you let them hit the portal, then why were you jumping on airplanes and flying all over the country and staying away from your family when you're not even going to play them? and you're going to let them get in the portal and leave.
Yeah.
If these
I
kids,
think that's got to change.
have
That's
the
got to
talent,
change.
they've got to get on the field. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at this tight end room. I mean, Oscar, Delp, Lawson, Lucky. Obviously, we got great news of them returning, but you look at how aggressive we've always been. And, I think Brock Bowers as a freshman saw that time because of his work ethic, but how are we going to keep Elias Williams off the field? The number 1 rated tight end in the country, 5-star, 6'7", has
Look,
hands and
if
moves
he's
like a
got
wide
soft
receiver.
hands and he's 6'7", he needs to be in the red zone offense every time you're in the red zone.
Yeah.
Throw the damn jump ball to him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm hearing Brock Bowers type talk. Not just saying that. I'm talking work ethic with Ethan Barber. Like, these guys have to have packages. I'm like, if I'm Mike Bobo, man, in the offseason right now, I am drooling at what I can do. I am drawing up old, like we talked about. Todd Monken was drawing up plays to get the ball to the people that needed to get the ball. Elias Williams needs to be touching the ball from 10 yards in at least 2 out of 4 of those shots need to be him, right?
you'd
Zachariah
think in the
Branch.
offseason they'd be sitting there thinking, okay, this defense, we're struggling with this. We need to match up this guy's talent with this linebacker or whatever. And they would be, coming up with these things for just those situations.
I'm going to go out on you went out there. I'm going to say that this could be the turning point for us this year of the reason why this year is extremely successful or not. I do get that offensive line play has to be key, but this wide receiver, I can go back and play you the show where I said, I looked at these names. I looked at Arian Smith, Dylan Bell. I looked at Colby Young. I looked at Dom Lovett. I said, this is the room. London Humphreys. I said, this room is the best room we've ever had. And
Colby Young could get back with us, and he could be the guy.
Right. But I looked at this room last year, and I went, this is the best room we've ever had. And then
it was until Colby and Rah-Rah.
Rah-Rah to you.
Look, there was a guy that played football at Georgia for Wally Butts, and he would get arrested every Friday night, and Wally Butts would bail him out on Saturday morning. And they interviewed Wally Butts, and they said, what do you think about so-and-so? He gets arrested every Friday night. And Wally Butts said, well, I like it because I know where he's at Saturday morning, and I can go get him ready to play.
Yeah.
But these kids, I don't know what they need to do, but
it's wild, man.
They need to lock Colby Young up if he gets off, and don't let the girls get to him.
Yeah. I mean, man. I mean, this wide receiver room is incredible, man. I mean, the tight ends. I mean, when you look at it, I'm once again baffled. I'm like, it leads me to my question. We're not going to have time. We'll put defense for next week because defense. I don't want to ram defense in a box, but
right.
It brings me to a question as we kind of get towards the end of the night tonight. Is obviously, we can take care of kicker, punter. Super excited for Brett Thorson to come back and. After his injury to his non-kicking leg, and then Peyton Woodring, of course, that kind of shoved our boy, I forget his name, Butler, into the transfer portal. But let's talk what is the big what is Mike Bobo thinking right now? If Mike Bobo, and I broke it, I listened to it, I broke it on TikTok. Just to let you know, TikTok. 32,000 views on a video. I did not try to misrepresent what I think was going to happen, but I honestly thought that Buck Bellew had a little bit of a heartbeat on this, and I thought this could happen, but I don't know if I'm Kirby, and this is a question to you, and it's like, all right, I'm sticking with Bobo this year, right? He's made the decision. I don't think Kirby can make that decision and just go, it's going to be fine. He might have done that last year. He has to, if he's going to assess the program and look at the program, he has to see that the play calling at times was very vanilla. And this is a sore topic because we could have done an hour on this and we can beat Bobo up all year, but this is I think this is where the rubber meets the road right here, and we really need to hit it. What needs to happen then? I can't. I'm going to be a fan here. Let you be a fan. I can't take another year of seeing how poorly prepared our first 20 plays look. Why are we waiting those 20 plays to actually go, oh, this works? We're better than that, man. Austin Brooks is a guy who breaks down tape for a living, and you're adding the expertise of all those coaches in that room on the offensive side of the ball, and we can't understand that this play calling is atrocious. So what is it? How are we going to turn a corner? Don't say the offensive line yet, because we got problems there too. Albeit if we get good blocking, what is going to turn the corner for Mike Bobo? And if it's nothing, then why is he going to be here this year? There was a time that this is going to have to be asked, and it's now. Here we are, the offseason. Why is Bobo coming back then? What do you think?
It's beyond me. I mean,
you can't use the line. I'm taking it out because I know you're going to go there, but my thing is, if the line blocks, are we still set up for success?
I think he's coming back because Kirby's stubborn.
It's gonna be the Achilles heel of this team. And I will tell you something. I just listened to a podcast, and it's not that I respect these guys. I like their takes. They're funny, and for the most part, in some of the ways, I don't like it, but it's fair. You know, they had a buy, sell, or hold for right now on the stock of your football team. You can go listen to it. I'll pump it a little bit. It's that SEC podcast by Michael Braddock's and cousin Shane.
Dude, I bet they stole the crap out of Bobo.
So they took Georgia and said these two things. Michael Braddock said, "I'm closer to sell than buy. I'm not hold though, because my thing is there's so many things that make this buyable. Because Georgia will still be the favorite next year." Albeit Arch Manning will still be the favorite next year to win the SEC title. I was blown away by that, because people will probably look at me if I said that and be like, well, you're a Georgia fan. You would think that. I do think we have a great chance of winning the SEC championship next year. I just do. Okay. We'll talk about it later. It'll definitely be after G-Day, because I'll tell you, if what I see at G-Day, it will back it up. But if it doesn't,
I'm inclined to agree with you, because yeah, we're homers, but let's see what we got at G-Day, because we've got talent. We just, is it all going to come together? And
yes.
that coming together is it's a piece of pie. And one of those pieces of pie is Bobo calling. One of the pieces of pie is team dynamics. I think we're in the position to have better team dynamics this year than last year. Another one of the pieces of the pie is, have we got some guys that can damn catch the ball this year? I don't know yet. We got a quarterback. We know he can throw the ball. How does he read defenses? Well, I think jury's out on that a little bit.
My thing is this, and we will beat it up all offseason. If Bobo comes back, the one thing he has going for him is this. I think Gunner is a guy that will have a better relationship with Bobo. I think he'll be less inclined to, for all I know, Beck didn't have the relationship with Bobo that when Bobo called a play, Beck didn't change half the crap. We don't know that. We'll never know that, because Kirby sets the tone as far as how leadership and how his organization works. So you'll never see a player sitting on a pedestal going, I don't know, man, I checked out of 50% of Mike Bobo's plays. We'll never know the deep, dark secrets of how many plays he got checked out of. The term they like to use is free control of this offense. Free control, right? I will tell you something. Stetson Bennett, Todd Monken. The relationship was, hey, I know you're a wild-ass guy. Be a wild-ass guy and run the plays that I tell you to run, and we will win. That was their beef, right? So every time that Monken would go, dude, run the play. Stop looking to, when Stetson Bennett started trusting the play calls, trusting his reads, that's where we took a step as a team that nobody could touch us. I think Gunnar can get to that. But do we have a mindset like that? It's going to have to be a year of where Bobo goes in a closet and really says, "Who am I? Who am I as a play caller? What did I do that works? What did I do that didn't work? And outside of if the quarterback is upright or on the ground, what does my play calling look like? And what can I do to, the guy threw for 240 yards against Notre Dame, who you saw, might we add, kept Ryan Howard. I'm sorry, not Ryan Howard, but quarterback from Ohio State. It's Howard. It's definitely Howard's his last name. I think he threw for right at 190 something, 200 yards, won the national championship, 240, and had a better line than us. Gunnar Stockton threw for 240 against that same defense, and was on his back half the night. Bobo's got to figure out who he is, or get back to who he is. It's inevitable. It has to happen for Georgia this year. We can't look at this crap another year. And I'm not doubting Bobo. I think it's in him. We've averaged 34 points with him. But he's got to figure out who he is, man. He's got to stop. Was he scared? Did he not? Was he not confident? Maybe he was. Maybe he was spooked from all the drops. Maybe he was spooked from the fact that he didn't have great rapport with a quarterback.
You know what? That's a good point, Ted. Bobo might have been spooked by all the interceptions and the drop balls and the offensive line woes. All of that could affect his play calling this year. It would me.
Yeah.
If I was the OC and I had to deal with all that, that's a tough pill to swallow. So, look, if we get a little bit better play across the board, I have to think Bobo's going to look different. It's going to look better. And throw in, some of this defense. We'll talk about that next time. But
this defense is incredibly
loaded.
Guy
in the middle, and this defense takes the pressure off of the secondary and allows our secondary to do what they do, and allows our linebackers to run and hit rather than stuff gaps and be in the wrong gap every time.
Yeah. I so badly want to talk defense tonight. We're going to talk about it next week, but I just can't, this is not, and I know what you mean. It's a rebuilding year as far as finding the blocks to make the puzzle right. And then we'll either, let's just be honest.
It's not only the blocks. We think we've got the quarterback situation, but it's also, the running backs and the passing. We got to get another running back in there that's going to contribute. And and here's another thing: we were terrible at the downfield block this year, which also affected our running game. Like every time N-Team broke through the line of scrimmage and got into the second level, he was getting tackled. We were terrible at getting the second level blocks from our offensive line. And if they did break out, we were terrible. Our our receivers did not block downfield like they did last year. And typically that's McConkey and Bowers.
Right.
So
here's another thing.
This was a sloppy team.
Yeah.
A very undisciplined team, a very un-Kirby-like team. And I'm sure that affects Kirby and Bobo as well. And I'm going to say those guys are going to get together, and this next team we see is probably going to be, a lot more disciplined and a lot more focused and a lot more, dialed in together.
Yeah.
Because this team was a little loose.
Yeah. And what they have to go off is rebuilding years look different. Rebuilding years doesn't mean that teams don't have a chance to win it all. The college football playoff actually gives everybody an opportunity to get their crap together. I would say in years past.
What keeps us in there, obviously this system that Kirby put together, but the other thing is the talent level.
Right.
We just hopefully get this Well, hopefully we got the talent that's going to not look like last year.
Well, the great thing is that 7 home games will, well, I don't say they're home games, but 3 away games, 3 true away games, and not neutral sites will definitely help a young team get broken in.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't do any favors to a veteran team. I guess you could call it a veteran team, even though I mean, you got to look at it. Let's backtrack really quick, right? Monroe Freeling wasn't really a name last year that we were hearing a lot about.
Nope.
There was some growing up.
Ernest Green was the young player that had played well the year before.
Right. Dylan Fairchild was a name that wasn't even on that first round roster that ended up going NFL. Yes, Jared Wilson was, but Jared Wilson was injured for a good part of the year, 3-4 games during the year. So this line play was actually getting some reps a lot last year. You look at this running back room. We didn't know Nate Frazier at this time last year.
Yeah,
we thought
we were coming in with Robinson. One of the Robinsons was going to be the.
Yeah, at this point last year, we thought one of the Robinsons, and then I don't know if Etienne had made a move yet. Yeah, he had. Did we get Etienne? We didn't get Etienne spring. We had Etienne for spring. So Etienne was on the mark, but still, Frazier was not a name yet. Frazier actually came in after graduating high school and made a name for himself during fall ball. So there's a lot of, I mean, who's going to be the Nate Frazier of next year? I have a funny feeling. Some of the names that I have are, I do think that Isaiah Gibson, and we're going to talk about him next week, but Isaiah Gibson and Elijah Griffin are going to be the real deal, man. I think Elijah Griffin is your next. Man? I can't believe I'm saying this, man, but I think your Jalen Carter is your next Elijah Griffin, man. I think he will play. It'll be hard to keep him off the field. We'll talk defense next week, but this is definitely a lot to chew on the entire offseason. We don't want to get too high.
Matt Stafford.
What's that?
You see Jalen pick up Matt Stafford?
No, did not.
He picked him up and held him. He didn't throw him down.
It's wild, man.
Like the LSU game with.
Yeah, it's a good thing he's a dog, because anybody else he'd have been thrown down. But well, hey man, way too early depth chart look for the offense. We'll do defense next week, and still waiting. This team is going to be a work in progress, but it could look very different come spring. This is definitely a year where it's a little bit more exciting to see what G-Day looks like. Who are the standouts? What's Kirby saying about how things are going and what it looks like? I think you might see a true quarterback, either at not necessarily a battle, but at least 2 quarterbacks that are going at the same level. Because
let's throw this out there. Let's hope this year, in the first 2 or 3 games of the season, if one of the quarterbacks is not playing well, let's hope the other one gets out there and gets a shot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
at least for the first 2 or 3 games, until we lock in on who we're going to go with, let's have some real competition, because you don't know until they get out there on game day.
Yeah, I agree.
There's gamers.
I agree. I mean, Puglisi's coming into this system probably with 1.5 years of experience. He came in this time last year, the year before last, was at bowl practices, and he's not just an average freshman taking the field. I mean, he'll be a true redshirt freshman, and with 1.5 years of experience under the playbook. So
I can't wait to see that arm in G-Day.
I want to see it, man. I want to see it.
That's what we're hearing about. I'm anxious to see it.
Same here.
Look, I was real impressed with Gunner's long ball. I mean, he dropped it right on them, and they couldn't catch it. But wouldn't it be something to have a Georgia team that can attack down the field? I mean, hopefully some of these receivers, hopefully they got some claws in their hands and they can catch the ball.
Yeah. Who do you think I didn't do this. We'll do this with the offense. We'll close with this. out of the names you've heard, who do you think, if we either have a name that we haven't heard or we have a name we have heard, like, who do you think is the name going into the year that you go, this guy is going to be the game changer on offense?
I think it's Talon.
On offense?
Yeah, the receiver coming.
Talking about the Taylor from Texas A&M?
No, the receiver from Illinois.
Branch?
No, Illinois.
Illinois?
Freshman. The 5-star from.
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah.
I think I'm wondering if he could be the real deal.
Yeah. I like that call.
Look, look, these transfer portal people, great, but I hadn't seen one that rocked my world yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot on Zachariah Branch. I don't think he's my one. It'd be hard to step out there and go freshman. If you want to know honestly what I think this year will be about, as far as like, I mean, I think you can expect some things from Nate Frazier, but one guy that I think could be a very game-breaking type guy that we just haven't just seen anything on him is, and I don't know if he'll be the game breaker. This is a toss-up for me, but I do think there was something in this merit of not allowing Nitro Tuggle to get into the portal.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he's the guy, but I am saying it's interesting that they said no.
It is interesting that they turned him around. So there's something that they they see.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't know. I mean,
I want to see what Nitro can do, and I want to see if Colby Young is going to come back, and you get these 2 6'6" and a 6'7" Elias Williams on the field at the same time. Who do you cover? Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see 6'7" Elias Williams and 2 6'6" on each other's on the other two sides, and just go, who can you cover? How high can you throw it? I mean, it's interesting.
I want to see one of these, and that's why the this 5-star kid coming in. I want to see a receiver that can get some separation, and be a consistent playmaker.
Yeah, we had one.
A 20-plus yard playmaker consistently. That's what I want to see.
Like I said, we had one. He just didn't catch the ball much. Arian could get separation. He just didn't catch it much.
Yeah, he was 50%. I mean, what did we look up? We looked it up, man. A good receiver in the NFL is about 80%.
Yeah.
And the great ones are in the 90s.
He gave the true adaptation of a 50-50 ball. And it wasn't like 50-50 was the cornerback or the wide receiver going to get it.
Was a 50-50.
It was 50-50 if he was going to catch it.
50-50 uncontested ball.
Oh, my gosh, man. How I want to, I think we're going to get to the point here soon before spring where we officially put 2024 to bed and you move on to what's going. But man, it will haunt me for a long, long time. Hey, man, we're going to be done for the night. Way too early offensive depth chart look, giving you some names to look for. Make sure you go and follow us. YouTube, Dogs Down South, obviously Facebook, 24 hours later on Apple Podcasts, and also gearing up. TikTok is back. And so right up to around 13, the TikToker, 1,300 followers on TikTok right now. So go over there, hop over there. We will be there throughout the off season as well, and a little bit more throughout the main season coming up. Looking to grow that platform. Had a fun time a couple times over there, talking to Ohio State fans, Notre Dame fans, but looking at doing the same thing sometime this week, if not next week as well. So for myself, for Richman Green, and for Fish, who has missed the night again, so long, everybody. Hope you have a great week. And as always, even in the off season, it's go Dogs.
Go Dogs.